Okay, let's get going. So when we met about, it's going to be nearly 6 years ago, I think, isn't it? Over a meeting, and we had a brief discussion, and just being able to visualize what Epicflow as a solution could actually do for us at that point in time with regards to portfolio management, resource management, etc. It was really exciting. So fast forward a few years of implementing that system, I had to join Albert and the team and actually work alongside them to take this solution out to as many organizations as possible. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. I think that Albert, you've taught me a hell of a lot, along with quite a few others. Another shout out to Jan Willem Tromp, who I think is also on the call, but one of the other co-founders. And I've seen you as mentors over the last several years. Yeah. So yes, thank you for teaching me.
Yeah, and we never stop developing. So let's kick off this this webinar. Thanks everybody for joining. I think we have nice things to share here, and let's show first what is different. I think where we started with Epicflow, also the time you joined, was we were very good in operations and in tactics. So assigning the right people to the right task at the right time, that resource management and multi-project management about doing the projects right. And at that time we always said, okay, which projects you do, that's up to you. But if you give us the projects and we know where to set the milestones, and we will get it done. This was typically how we did it for multiple years. But today I'm quite excited because we go one level up. We go to portfolio management. We talk about strategy today, about doing the right projects. So the portfolio management type, the portfolio management actually. And I know from you, when you work at a big organization, this is really important. I cannot imagine how much discussions there will be, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think in terms of the strategic conversations, they can be really difficult to really get a grasp of where are we delivering the most amount of value within our organization with the resources that we have access to. When I use the term resources, I'm talking about people, key infrastructure, facilities, and key equipment as well. So all of those things, how do we maximize the investment that we've made in those resources to return the maximum value back to the organization? So we're thinking about it as an investment, and that's always been really difficult to come up with an answer in a relatively quick period of time. Actually, it typically takes a whole team many hours, days, or weeks to come up with one answer, let alone being able to model across an entire portfolio.
Yeah, and I like that you say you see a project as an investment, because that's also where we are heading to with our strategy within Epicflow. I'm quite sure Stephen DeVoe is also on this call, on this webinar. We will do sessions with him later on, because he really, if you look at what he produced, then you can really quantify projects as an investment. We will also do this in Epicflow. We will not show that part today money-wise, but we go into the strategic area there. So there is really a nice future ahead, and this future is coming really soon. So I think in the coming months we already approach that.
And yes, it's going to be exciting. If today's not exciting enough, then watch this space over the coming months as the team mature that.
And we are already promoting Stephen DeVoe's webinars. He does it for the PMI. So please look up. I think if you look at our post, you will see that we also give him the stage there. And why this is so important. So we started with tactic and operations, and now add strategy. But what is very important, you should align it. And if you look at tools in the market, you see a lot of tools which are only focusing on strategy, and for me, this is not even half the work. This is a part of the work. You need to align it, because otherwise it will become a mess. And that's also what we want to show today. Now, I first do a step back in time, not so far back, but I think it is now a bit more than a year back, 2 years back, that we started at Dutch Ministry of Defense. And I'm quite happy that we are allowed to present also this case, because of course everything is secret at defense, but we anonymized everything, and we also published this case in one of our blogs that we send out with approval of the general. And when I came in there, this was their portfolio. And for people who had not seen Epicflow before, every line here is a project within a huge program. This is a multi-billion program, will last for many years, and this was the first stage of that program. And red is always alarming. So if you see a red line here, you know you will not meet the deadline. Regardless if you have the resources over all projects, yes or no. If you look at the critical path there, you will not make it. Yellow means it requires management attention. You have some slack in there, but it's tight. Green means you are in good shape. And blue means you have time-wise abundance of time. You could even do it faster there. And so that was a problem, because if we looked at it, we are always calculating how much work is there in progress. And if you have all those projects in parallel, you also need management there and overhead, and there will be questions about those projects, and it should be aligned, and you have to divide your resources over those projects. So, and we saw immediately that there was a huge overload in certain areas, in certain disciplines. And if you have that, you will have fighting. You have fights about resources all over the place, because nobody can deliver on time. And this is also what we saw. We saw chronic delays, and this gray bar that you see here is the estimated due. This is the planned due date, and you will see here the predicted due date. So based on all the constraints that you have in the project relations, limited capacity, and we saw that in 24% of the projects were not delivered on time. So a big disaster, and they did not get it right. They didn't even have an idea how to fix this. It only ended up in the previous point, fighting about resources. Now, and I think, Ben, this is exactly also why we joined that why we helped that company where you worked for before, because this is not unique.
This is not unique. This is far from unique. And actually, moving on from there, and with all the companies that I've worked with since, this is incredibly common, where you come in and yes, you've got some red bars in there where certain projects aren't feasible, but actually the majority of projects do look feasible when you plan them in isolation as single projects. It's only when you bring all of those projects together into the wider program and portfolio that you can then understand just what your entire resource loading looks like. And when you bring all of that together, run some simulations with resource capacity, project priorities, actually, you can see just how much of an impact this has. So this is incredibly common, and it's only when you've got that visibility that you realize just how bad the position is to start with. But there is some good news, Albert, so I've heard.
This is, by the way, a nice thing is here, the data that we use for here, you can see the hours of each project, was, if you would dive into those projects, actually the data was crap. Yeah, I only saw, I need an engineer for 700 hours in this period of time on that project. and I need a security officer there, and etc. So it was not a very nice laid out project everywhere. It was just high level data. And this also encouraged me, because I always want to see nice networks. No, the general said, you will get this data and you have to tell me, how many people I lack, and how to fix this issue. This is the data that we got, because otherwise it will cost us years to build up really nice project plans. And so we started with what you should call crap data, but at least we had some estimations of the amount of capacity that each project wanted. And so what we did, we applied the Epicflow methodology. Now you see here now all kinds of green projects. So how did we do that? We first said to them, please set priorities among those projects. And they said, but this is, we don't know how to do that, because then we have to go to this office and that office, and they have to agree. I said, okay, leave it. I will set priorities. And they looked at me and they said, but Albert, you know nothing about our projects, with all respect. I said, no, but anyway, whatever I do, you will be better than what you have currently. And then they said, okay, we will rank them in priority 1, 2, 3, and 4. And priority 1 must be in the field as soon as possible, rather earlier than later than we already planned it. And priority 3 and 4 can shift, but priority 2 you also should deliver within the given time. And they also made some adjustments. They made some put some more details within those projects, but this was actually what we got. So what did we do? So we set those business priority, and we act accordingly. And what we did is something very counterintuitive. And I know this was a huge struggle for them, because I said, on the highest priority project, if I see this task of this engineer that I named for 700 hours, one engineer, 700 hours, this was not an exaggeration. I saw even worse cases. And I said, but why not put 2 on it? I can understand that you cannot put 10 on it, because then you will lose efficiency, but at least 2. So we did.
And I suppose the immediate response to that would have been, but we haven't got 2 people. We haven't got spare resources, right? We're already overloaded.
Indeed, but we don't have them. I said, if you would only do this first project, priority project, you will have them. Do you agree? Then we will have them, but then we have to sacrifice another project. So this is exactly what we are going to do. So we put them, and we did not exaggerate, only those examples that I just gave you. We did that. And by that, we needed to reduce the number of parallel projects, because I don't have so much resources to do that on each project, because the given factor was that I had to do it with the people that were there. And this is typically for now, for example, the defense industry, now they have money enough. But money can't buy everything. They cannot just hire extra experts. They have to do it with the experts that they have in-house, because they are just not there in the market. And so we needed to reduce the number of parallel projects. And how did we do that? We used the principle of staggering. I'm a TUC guy from Goldratt, and he already teach me that. So how do you do that? You load projects in your portfolio. If you see that you have an overload somewhere by adding, say, the 5th project here, then you know you need to shift the next project a bit in time. You have to delay it a bit till there is overall enough capacity. It's actually, that's a quite powerful mean how to do that. And the only thing, and this sounds a bit strange, So you need to start later in order to deliver overall everything earlier. You need to have, how to say it nicely or not nicely, you need to have the balls to extend projects with a lower priority. You'll see here later on, we shifted them in time. And but the result was astonishing. We saw already from the first day in the simulations, that we could achieve at least a 3 times better due date performance. And yes, the data is not perfect. So I think the general stated this wise. Albert, probably this 77% will not be the figure with this data. But I'm also quite sure that we will not make the 24%. So I think your improvement of 3 times, probably it will be much more than 3 times. And I think, this really makes a change if you do this. Yeah?
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see the evolution of the way that you were thinking before we come on to the EPO a bit later on. And this is really sort of laying the foundation for me in terms of how it all starts to come together.
Yeah, yes, because in order to do this, I don't know if there was there are some other points here, I forgot. So in total, this is important, by the way. Instead of not delivering later, we could also deliver in total 442 hours earlier. And that was mainly in your top priority projects because I put more people on it. So I could easily reduce the lead times with 30%. That's not a problem. Of course, it goes at the cost of those priority, some of the priority 3 projects. Here you see a huge delay, and the priority 4 projects, those last ones are not even on the screen. But at that time, the whole world is already changed. Yeah. So the chance that there are higher priorities come in the meantime is quite high. And as long as you did not touch anything of those low priority projects, you did not waste any extra capacity, which is a huge difference than you had at the start. So there is another thing which is not on this sheet. If you reduce lead time, there is less time for the world to change in between. If you do project for customers, before they can change their mind, you have almost already delivered their project. That's the ultimate thing to do. Yeah.
And I suppose as well, when you're running through these options, although you can't get those highly skilled resources right now, you may be able to get them in 6 months' time. So although some of those lower priority projects are staggered way out into the future, you could model bringing in additional resource, which could then bring them back to the left.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Okay. Because then you talk about additional headcount. Here we had no additional headcount, but you are absolutely right. Yeah. So this triggered me to focus on strategy. And I know what I did here. You need a lot of experience here, because you have to understand what is my real constraint, how to do it, etc. And I think this was a starting point that we said, okay, let's make an agent, an AI agent, which you can talk to in human language, and embed this all in an agent. Now, before we get there, because Ben will show that, I will first show you a bit of Epicflow to set the stage, and then come back. Because I first want to show you the effect of overload. I do this in a small demo, because this is the key element. Yeah. Here you see Epicflow. I only put 3 simple projects there, and it are very high level projects. So I don't put any detail. I have a design task here, I have a build task, and an ops task. And so no detailed levels. And it's not that we cannot do it, but I want to show it in a simple environment, because I think we have projects up to 10 or 20,000 tasks. So that's not a problem for us to handle it. And here we have only 4 resource groups: build, design, test, and ops. But we can also handle hundreds of resource groups and thousands of resources. That's not a problem. Now, what you see here you see the projects with that timeline, green, very safe. Here you see the resource groups, and on top you see always the most loaded resource group. And what you see here, you see the load of this resource group. And above the 0 line, you're overloaded. Below the 0 line, you're underloaded. We take into account holidays, etc. And where does the load come from? It comes from those projects. So if I would change here the due date, immediately you can see how feasible the due date is that you quote. Apply. The system will recalculate, and it shows you, hey, you are overloaded here. And you can do an analysis here and saying, okay, I have only 1 FTE here. This is a very small company that I show, and you need half an FTE extra. Why? Because those projects demand it. Now, this is on high level the project. I will reset this project to the baseline. You immediately also saw it jumps to the top here of the pipeline, because it requires the highest management attention. So I have here a feasible project. I can also calculate with doing a prediction that, given the resources that I have, can I make those due dates, and when can I deliver? Now you see that here, no surprise, because none of our resources was overloaded. So we have here a perfect output. Yeah, we can even deliver projects earlier. Now we created the dashboard.
Sorry, just before you go into the dashboard, it'd be really fascinating to just very quickly open up those tasks and see how, at a tactical level, those tasks are then staggered in and around priority and resource availability. So it's gone and looked at all of the combinations that those tasks could be delivered in, along with the resource of capacity, and then come up with the optimum delivery plan. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, you
I see that Daniel's put a really interesting comment in there as well, actually, about the number of various scenarios based on sequencing 24 projects far exceeds the number of stars in all the known galaxies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
He's absolutely hit the nail on the head with that one, and it gets pretty scary pretty quickly in terms of the number of combinations with this.
Hey, we talk about strategy, so you should know what is behind it. Let's hide this and
go up a level or two.
Stick to the strategy level. And so this is that prediction, and on high level you can see 3 projects there, 100% due date performance, 0 days delayed. I can even deliver 123 days earlier. Now, and many of those companies, if they have a very good due date performance, if they see new projects coming, this is for us in the inactive area, they say, oh, they actually don't have this. Many companies don't have any insight in their resource load. Then they are just adding a project based on gut feeling. I heard it so many times. So let's add this project 4, to the portfolio. Now you will see an overload, and people think, yeah, but here I'm underloaded, and I can do it. If you now run a new prediction, here, run. Now that takes a little bit longer. Here, then you see here, you will not make this due date, and you will also not make, surprisingly, this due date. So your due date performance by adding 1 project dropped from 100% to 50%, and you were 22 days delayed in total. And I have seen this over and over again, not only with 3 projects adding a 4th, but also with 20 projects and adding a 21st project.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing, isn't it? Just that one additional project is the straw that breaks the camel's back in so many cases, and we see that time and time again across so many clients.
It's always nice to have a native speaking English person at the other side. Yeah, that's yeah. But but it's even worse, because in such an environment, people will be stressed and they will get burnout. And then the situation will get only worse for the company. So it has a snowball effect. And this is why I really hope there is a lot of C-level people looking at this webinar. That is your responsibility to manage your company right, not to overload people, not to stick your head in the sand, and to think that everything will happen. If you see an overload here, take it seriously. That's the most important thing to look at. You cannot overload your company. Yeah.
And I think as well, it's disproportionate in terms of the benefits that an organization will receive in terms of how they go about managing their portfolio. So to the point where if you keep your fixed costs fixed and you organically grow using intelligent optimization, emerging techniques, etc., it's not unusual for organizations almost doubling their profit margin just by optimizing in this way and understanding where the bottlenecks exist.
Yeah, and also the other way around. If you add more, you will not earn more. You will lose, especially if there are penalties in place. Also, that makes it even worse. Yeah. So you work harder and you earn less. Now, this is not an organization I want to be part of. You will continue later on with this example.
I will indeed. Yes, I'll take this to the next level and introduce the EPO.
Yeah, and for now, I will show you one more case, and this shows perfectly how important it is to involve C-level management in the strategy of the organization. And I did this case study at a new product development company at the Mechatronics department. It was mechanics and software, actually, both together. And I did my PhD in that company. So I worked with them I studied them for 4 years. But what I will now show, this was from the early stages there. And I show you their portfolio. And you see here also black ranges. And I didn't explain that black ranges. This was a department with about 25 people. They had 23 projects running in parallel. And the black ranges means that this project will be delivered here, while another project, which is planned earlier, needed their output. So they really made a mess. It really was a mess in their organization. And at that time, I had to do interviews for my PhD and to write everything down, do analysis. And this struck me the most, that people were saying, yeah, Albert, I can't get anything done. Yeah, and they were really close to a burnout. The atmosphere was very negative in that department, but also in the organization. And so I went on the 11th of April. Look at this date. Very important. I went to the CEO. I said, yeah, look at this. I cannot work like that. He said, yeah, but what do you need? I said, now, please prioritize those projects. I literally know, because I wrote it down in my logbook. He opened his laptop. He said, we have that. He opened the sheet with all the projects. Immediately he closed his laptop and he was very silent. I said, what's going on? He said, yeah, we have priorities, but everywhere it's priority 1. I know what you need, he said. And he delivered. So, and this was very powerful, that I could step up to the CEO and ask him to help me to set this straight. And so he led really the shift to strategic prioritization. And I emphasize on this because you cannot, as a C-level person, say, we buy a tool like Epicflow or whatever, and then think that they can manage. No, you need to have leadership, and you need to do the things that they also showed you in the previous case. Now, look at this, 11th of April. Now, 5 weeks later, because I also needed to capture everything in my logbook there. 5 weeks later, I had to do interviews again, because I had to do that frequently as a PhD candidate. Department was totally changed. Literally, this is a literally quote. I'm so happy to accomplish things. If you look at the portfolio, you see everything is now staggered. Yeah, staggered again. I was not happy with the detail of the plan. I described that also in my PhD case study. I want to optimize also those plans. And those were from the software department, actually. I should not have done that. That was it was totally not necessary. If they knew which projects to do, they had their own Scrum board in Jira. As long as they could do that, focus on it, the Scrum methodology worked. Yeah, but it works only in combination with the things we did here to do a strategic alignment over the entire company, and then operations could do their job. Striking, isn't it? Here in figures, we started from an 8 FTE overload, full-time equivalent overload, on a group of 25 people, to a balanced workload, and you will see even an underload, because they knew we are not so good in estimating. And especially in the software department part, always new things pop up, and we have to do bug fixing, so we underload it a bit. So you really see already the balanced workflow. And now we could also measure the output. How do we measure the output? Here you have a line of capacity, and I measure output with if I give you 4 tasks of 10 hours in a week, and at the end of the week you worked 60 hours, but you only delivered 2 tasks of 10 hours, your output is only the half of what I expected. Now, here is where we started on the 11th, yeah, and you will see, I think that it shifted a bit. It should be here, and here 5 weeks later on this peak, you will see the output was growing, and the red denotes the projects that were in red, that also decreased, etc. So you see literally that the output increased significantly.
I think that's an amazing view, and that correlation between avoiding overloading your resources, giving them a meaningful amount of work within the time period that is possible to deliver, and actually seeing that output increase accordingly. And presumably that's the relationship between what you talked about earlier with the sort of high level portfolio side of things all the way through to the operational delivery, and then being able to focus on the right things in the right order, therefore output goes up.
Yeah, indeed. Strategy and operations are aligned. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And also I also like in the interviews that you have the non-quantifiable output, that people are happy again. And that also makes me happy to do those implementations. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, you can also search for my PhD dissertation. It's described in every detail that you like. So it's really well documented. Oh yeah. Till now, I showed you the principles and the effect of the output. And now we go, this is still a bit what you will see now, old school. We also sponsor here an old school racing team. But now we want to go next level. And now I will hand it over to Ben, because what's next level of classic racing, Ben? This is...
We're going to take an example and have a look at the EPO now. So our latest development that we're here today to talk about after your great build up to it, Albert, and how we use this as an example to maximize the output and therefore the value that was being delivered for a Formula One team. And this ultimately gave them a bit of a race day advantage.
Yeah, and I must say, I must interrupt because I'm a huge fan of Formula One. Yeah. And this Formula One team did not approach me, but it approached Ben, who is fan of cricket. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so okay, but now we work together on this one. Yeah, but it was your call. Yeah, really great.
So here we go. Okay, so as you may guess, you see a lot of action in the here and now in this season, and it's very much in the tactical side of things. How do they get the race teams around the world, the cars prepared, here and now, that instant feedback to improve the performance over the course of a short-term period. But in the background, there's a much larger team that are looking to deliver and improve upon this year's car for next year's competitive action. So we've got a whole host of R&D projects running behind the scenes, a whole host of highly skilled scientists and engineers, key facilities, but of course with a limited budget. So for anybody that doesn't know about F1, they've all got capped budgets so that they don't just go off into the atmosphere with their spending, and that keeps it relatively competitive. So before we jump into the EPO, just to set the scene a little bit, so what we were able to do is look at similar examples as to what Albert mentioned earlier on, but in a slightly different way now, actually in a hugely different way, and much more automated, and removing the human aspect of being able to sort of understand exactly what's going on and using the AI engine, as Albert mentioned earlier on. So what we were able to do was focus on the most valuable projects, and I'll talk about value within an F1 team shortly, simulate those scenarios, stagger in such a way so that the lower priorities that weren't adding as much value then pushed out. And what we were able to do is take from a start point of one of 5 of the highest value projects being delivered on time to all 5 of those high value projects being delivered on time. Huge increases in terms of the days gained, i.e. moving things back to the left, excuse me, and also being able to ensure that the workload was achievable for the team. So we didn't have people working long hours or over the weekends and burning them out. And what we found is that when the priorities are clear at a task level, which has been sort of driven down from the high level portfolio planning, and we understand the value that we want to deliver, we respect the capacity by not overloading our resources. We actually saw innovation accelerate to the point where not only did we deliver the R&D projects that we were planning to deliver, but actually we went a couple of steps further. So this, I'm not going to go through this in great detail. However, what I want to talk about is value. And for a Formula One team, as you can imagine, they're not interested. Well, there is no such concept as profit. So what they're interested in with the projects that they're working on to develop next year's car, they want to maximize a whole host of KPIs, of which these are 3. So downforce, they want to increase that. They want to improve the cornering speed and also driver confidence in terms of the feedback the driver's getting. So we've got a whole host of measurements for these. So this is the raw gain. There's an interpretation there, but what we did is we normalized those values, those benefits that we could measure between 0 to 100. So we then had a way of normalizing that data.
I like, by the way, the driver confidence. I don't know if you have watched. You didn't watch, but probably the audience did the last Formula One race, and you saw Max Verstappen, the world champion. Yeah, I'm Dutch. But he ended almost dead last in qualification because he did not have any confidence. His car would not steer, as he expected. So it's nice to see those KPIs and see then the people, the drivers struggle with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think where we've taken this out to some other early adopters of the EPO, what we've been able to do is define value as whatever is important to the organization. So yes, that could be profit from an individual project, or it could be how many lives can we save as a result of undertaking this initiative. I'm working with one client at the moment that's interested in how many tons of CO2 can we reduce our overall emissions by. So it doesn't always have to be profit. So What I'll do now is I'll head over to the EPO. So I'll bring Epicflow back in, pick up where you left off, Albert. So I'll just refresh this ever so slightly. Okay, great. So Albert took us through some of the basics around Epicflow and how that works. What I have done is load up a what if scenario to bring more projects in. So I'm just going to launch this one here. Here's one I made earlier, as some people might say. So I've got a whole host of projects in here. And if we take a look at all of these projects, for the eagle-eyed folks among you, you would have seen that these are aligned with the type of projects that we're interested in. So for a Formula One team. So in this case here, driver feedback calibration. And we've got this one up here, corner optimized suspension.
It's nice to look at attributes there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just what I was coming on to. So down at the bottom here, what we've done is we've said, if I deliver this project, assume infinite resource capacity for now, what are the values that I will get out of this? What are the benefits to me as an organization? Now, downforce, 25 points based on that scale that we talked about earlier on. Cornering, 40 points, and drivability, 35. Now, I've just included profit in here to demonstrate this a little bit later on, but actually, we're not too interested in it from an F1 perspective. So I've got all of those attributes in there, and I'm now going to switch over now to business value. And these are values that I have generated as a human in terms of what I think is the most important, what's the least important. But I know that I'm heavily overloaded. And if I were to try to run this at the moment, I would have many projects that would overrun. And if I go to my dashboard, only 2 of the 8 projects would be delivered on time with a huge 700 days worth of delays. So not a good situation to start with. So this is where, rather than the manual approach that Albert and a team of experts went through in the Dutch MOD example, we're now able to introduce the Epicflow Portfolio Optimiser, which is an AI agent to help us deliver the maximum value to the organization. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to highlight my overloaded resource group. So I've ordered these in terms of the most overloaded at the top. I'm going to put a bandwidth of time around that overload where we exceed the 0 line, and then optimize. So I'll just expand this ever so slightly. Okay. Now this opens up the AI agent. I'm going to choose fast flow. It will talk you through the entire process, but for now, what we're going to do to start with is we're going to open up all of the projects, and let's just show more.
Can you tell maybe a bit about what an agent is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the excuse me. So this agent is an LLM that we have pointed towards all of Albert's knowledge, all of the knowledge in our wiki. We have trained it to undertake certain processes, to be able to run analysis, and also described what it is that we would like to get to in terms of an output. And then we can vary our human inputs, and it will be able to then run through the combinations and the scenarios to take your verbal instruction and turn that into an optimized portfolio. And that's essentially what the EPO is doing.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you have now the Portfolio Optimiser as an agent. Yeah, and if you look at the list, we have multiple agents. Yeah.
Yes.
So we can you can put multiple agents in, and moreover, customers can now also create their own agent.
Yes,
they can make their own work stream, and so that they say, yeah, but for me, this is very important. So we can help them to build their own agents, specific, customized agents, which is really the next step forward. Yeah,
exactly. And I think being able to take an agent and then have that agent produce reports for you based on all of your historical reporting, but also look ahead to the future and give you advance warning of, hey, if you don't do this or take action here, this is the likely impact. So
I will not interrupt you. Please continue.
Yes. You're taking me down a rabbit hole there, Albert. Okay, so what we've got here now, we've taken all of our projects, we've brought in all of the attributes in terms of the value that we can deliver as a result of delivering these projects. We can see here downforce, cornering, drivability, and profit. Now, the important thing here is that we are looking at how many constrained resource hours, i.e. my bottleneck resource, is being demanded by that project in order to deliver that value. And if I were to look at this one down here, we've got 200 resource hours here, 600, nearly 700 there. And what I want to do, just to highlight, I'm just going to simply prioritize profit to start with, just as a quick demonstration. So what the EPO will do is it will take our previous business value and it will then optimize that business value based on the benefit that we would be receiving, the value, in this case, profit. And you think, well, why is the first project in this list at $2,000 of profit at the top of this list when I've clearly got one down here that's $8,000 of profit? And that's because the bottleneck resource that's being demanded in this case is 0 hours. It's a free lunch. If you try to deliver that project, it will have no impact based on your current bottleneck on all of your other projects. So get on and do it, make it your highest business value. Now, as we progress down here, we have a much lower, so only 4,000 compared with the 8,000, but it's demanding 100 hours of our bottleneck resource. So as a ratio, this is delivering far more value for the organization per bottleneck hour than some of these. So that's the way that this is working to start with. But yeah, I'm going to take it one step further.
I interrupt you one more time. The principle behind this, what Goldred already taught us, teached us, that is a throughput calculation. Yeah, how do I squeeze the most out of my constraining resource? So the principles are quite old. They were already there for 20 years, but we now could package it that only with a few hits on a button, it's on your fingertips.
Yes, exactly. And what we're looking at now is something that will greatly help master schedulers at that high level to determine how we deliver the maximum value with the resources that we have. So I'm going to step it up a level now and move away from profit. I'm going to come down here and edit this formula. And I'm going to say to the agent, hello, could you create me a formula, please, that makes sense for a Formula One race team? I'm interested in maximizing downforce, followed by cornering and then drivability, and I have no interest in profit. So what we'll do there is we'll see what it comes up with here. So it comes up with this formula. I can go in and edit this formula if I want. So in this case here, 50% towards downforce, 30 for cornering, 20 for drivability. So that's the ratio that I've asked it to look at in terms of high for downforce, medium for cornering. I can adjust that. But let's say that I'm happy with that and I click apply. And then from here, I've got my revised and optimized business values in line with the logic that we've just been through. Now, I apply and continue and take all of that we've just been through to the portfolio. And now Epicflow will do its thing. So Albert, thanks to you and a couple of other PhD candidates, we've got this going on. I won't even try to explain what's going on there with the maths. But what we've been able to do there before we jump back into the portfolio is bring up the before and after. We've baselined all of this as well, so we know where we were to start with. So of the 8 projects, we know that only 2 of them could have been delivered on time previously with the 700 days worth of delays. Post-optimization, we now have a plan for all 8 projects to be delivered within the timeframes, realistically cascading all the way down through to the operational delivery plan. But if I click out of this and we move over here, we can see that the 5 highest value projects to us are all going to be delivered ahead of their baseline. And the 3 projects that are the lowest value drivers based on that mixture that we set that formula for have been pushed out. And of course, we could then go and model bringing in additional resource to bring some of those lower value projects back to the left. But that, in essence, is how the EPO is working. And we're able to see substantial increases, not only in output, but in terms of the value that the organization realizes as a result of optimizing around the constrained resource. And I'll hand back to you now, Albert.
Yeah, very briefly to wrap up, because I want to go to the questions. I think the main message is here that it all starts with strategy, and we have proven now in many cases that you don't have to go in the detail, because if you first have this high level plan, the operations will already improve, because the biggest threat for operations is that you overload your resources. Only one group here, only one group B. If that's overloaded, everybody will have an issue. So
yes.
So
I think it's important. Sorry, Albert. I was going to say, I think it's important to understand that even if you go and unblock your bottleneck today, so you could go and recruit an additional however many you need of resource group B, but you then need to model what is the impact of unblocking that bottleneck. What's the next one that I can then slam into?
Yeah, and you have to
it's not always obvious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You take an instantaneous snapshot of your resource overloads, think that you've got a recruitment plan to get yourself out of jail, you enact that, and then you've got another problem. So being able to model that and step it ahead to see what the overall impact is hugely powerful for organizations.
Hey, I know Alexander is behind the chat group. So if you can pass on some questions, I don't know if there are, because I could not follow them from here. Yeah. Okay, we get something in. Can Epicflow do real CCPM critical change for a portfolio? Because you have, yes, we do this buffer management. It's actually what you see. You see that buffer management. We prioritize tasks, and so on operational level. Yes, we can do that. That's really not a problem. Second one I also will take, and then you will do the third. Which LLM do you use? We use actually multiple, because it's token based. We also need to pay tokens, and you can, but most of it we use OpenAI. But we can, but if you use the Model 5, you pay really a fortune on tokens. So if you can do it with 4.0 Mini, I go a bit in detail, you pay much less. So on average, we can limit the token price. And even though I'm now working at a defense-related company which does not want to send their data to OpenAI, they have their own LLM running in-house. And you will see that also in at other organizations, that they will run their own LLM at house, and we connect to that because it's a very open standard. I actually don't care. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Albert. So I'll pick up the next couple then. So to implement EPO, how much training or change management is needed for leadership and teams? Okay. So I think if I'll probably try and kill two birds with one stone, because the next question talks about the rough data. So if we're talking relatively high level data, and that's available more or less straight away, which with most organizations it is, they have some sort of idea of what it is that they're planning to deliver in the short to medium term. That, along with an understanding of the resource group structures, the skills of the resources themselves, bringing all of that rich data together, actually we can be up and running within a week or two. In terms of the training, so we now that we've removed a lot of the complexity, a lot of the knowledge that was required for sort of true portfolio optimization without the EPO, we can now get to the point where an experienced scheduler would be able to pick this up within a day or two. It really is that quick. So within 2 weeks, you could have data in the system. You would be able to see where the opportunities are. You'd be able to calculate how you can then reprioritize your portfolio, and then have your schedulers cascade that information, that data, through to your delivery teams. So it really can be as quick as a couple of weeks.
if they ask me, I always say it is between 2 weeks and 2 years. And
I give the best case example. Yes.
And when it takes 2 years, because we also have very bad examples, typically what I saw, it had no involvement of C-level management. Yeah, they really thought it's your problem. So that really makes it difficult. And then, of course, we learned. We now demand that C-level is involved. And the other pitfall was, if they see all the capabilities of Epicflow, you can add the detailed competences and whatever, but you first have to get the basics right. So we start a proof of value, we call it, with customers. I really limit this to 2 months.
Mhm.
At 2 months, we must deliver. Yeah, the sooner the better, because otherwise you go in too much detail.
Conscious of time, Albert.
Yeah.
I think the last question there, certainly on our screen, I've seen another couple come through that I'd quite like to answer. It works even with, you've seen that EPO works even with rough data, and I think we've touched on that in the previous answer. I've seen that Daniel has asked a question about how would we handle organizations saying that they're unable, unwilling, or afraid to undertake the organizational effort required to move away from insert any one of 100 PPM tools here. The great thing with Epicflow is that you don't need to move away from those tools. So all of those systems that are single project by design, whether that's Microsoft Project, whether that's Adobe Workfront,
Jira, what I showed.
Jira, yeah, we're planning agnostic, so it doesn't have to be waterfall. We can actually ingest all of that data through bidirectional synchronizations and land it into Epicflow and actually push that data back to your source system or your PPM system. So there really is not a need to migrate away. Actually, you can use Epicflow as a portfolio overview to undertake those high-level optimization activities and then push back into PPM. So that reduces the unwillingness or being unable to move away. Hopefully that answers your question, Daniel.
You want to pick one other one, Ben?
Okay, so we have got this one here. So is it suitable for organizations with different levels of project management maturity?
Yeah, certainly. And even with different types of project management. The PhD case that I showed, you had traditional waterfall to do hardware development, and you had agile with software development. And also the maturity, it is not a problem. And even because maturity also depends, is also related to how good can you plan. You can also do detailed planning for now, for the coming months, and have rough plannings later on. And I did a lot of research about how mature the organization should be, what the level of detail should be, and I can explain you in detail, what a good level is. Not now anymore, but then you have to sign up for a demo. And I think we come to an end, Ben, of this webinar.
Yes, I've seen that there are still a few questions outstanding, but we're at the top of the hour now. What we would like to do is take those questions and get back to you as well. So we'll connect with you through LinkedIn to get answers to those, because we've got really good answers to all of them. I'd love to stay on for an extra half an hour and start running through, but I don't think we're going to be allowed. But no, I think we can draw to a close there. So in terms of, if you would like to explore our offering in any more detail, please feel free to reach out to us either through Epicflow directly, Albert, myself. And what we are able to do is take a much deeper dive into some of your challenges within your organization, run through some of the finer details, and then look at options as to how we can get you to the point of delivering that additional value within the timeframes that we've been talking about, and start seeing some real value within your organization.
Yeah, and it's quite, if we do a proof of value, the proof of concept we call a proof of value with you, really in 2 months' time, with really low cost, we can show you the huge advantage that it has. So take that investment. and learn a lot in those months. And just try it, because otherwise you can discuss it for a year. But what Stephen DeVoe said, also he asked us to add to the tool, please also add the cost of not taking a decision. Yeah. Hey Ben, thanks a lot.
No, thank you.